Hello there, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. How's it going? Welcome back to another wonderful commentary in the wonderful world of Team Fortress 2, where the updates don't matter and the topic might not really correspond with the video title per se. I don't really have a direction for this commentary at all. I just kind of felt like hitting the record button after jotting a few notes down, and I'm like, I'm just gonna talk for a bit. Lately, it feels as though a lot of my videos, a lot of the success in them anyway, stems from the fact that I ordinarily just write an incredibly long script and try to follow that to the best of my abilities. But I'd also really like to excel in this sort of casual commentary where I don't necessarily have to read line for line, just get a couple notes down and talk about a couple of things. So now the jetpack update for Team Fortress 2 has had a little bit of time to simmer down, and everybody's a pyro flying all across the maps with jetpacks on. It's a great jetpack update, jetpack out of 10, best jetpack update ever, jetpack. But honestly, I really have to commend Valve for actually putting an update out for Team Fortress 2, because it had actually been probably well over a year since the previous major update, and you might be thinking to yourself, oh, that's like an ordinary expected amount of time for a Team Fortress 2 content update. And yeah, but what really surprises me more is the fact that this is probably just a couple of people updating the game at this point. I'm not sure exactly how much support would differ depending on how many people were working on it previously. All I do know is that support for the game is, minimal. But the fact that it is still getting updates is, surprising. It's impressive, you know, good job. You've done us a good service, Valve. Even though I cannot say I'm frankly impressed with some of the changes that they've made, I can at least commend them for trying to improve upon some of the mistakes that they've made. I looked back on my matchmaking video, for instance, and there are a few things which I agree with, in retrospect, and a number of things which I also strongly disagree with. I mean, that video, if I recall correctly, actually took me a month to get to, and I can't exactly remember the proper reason behind that, but it stopped me from playing Team Fortress 2 before I went back to record the commentary for that video. And for a certain amount of time, it definitely strayed me away from just touching the game in general, and we'll get to that topic in a short amount of time. But the first thing that I feel I need to address is just what I consider to be the damage control for the matchmaking system. Obviously, when it was first introduced, it was kind of a disaster. Full games would not necessarily be run, per se, in the sense where if one team captured a control point faster compared to the previous team, then they would just instantly win from there, and that would be the end of the match. You'd have to go regroup at some point. Nowadays, it's very comforting to see that you can play full rounds, although it's still very limited to the amount of rounds that you can play at a time. And it seems as though that they've been trying to mitigate these issues by introducing or reintroducing, I should say, a map voting system, and also replacing the auto balance with a volunteer system. Now, when it comes to map voting, I think it's an admirable attempt, but the problem is, it's basically a random number generator for two different types of maps, or you can vote to play on the exact same map that you just played, and usually a lot of people want to play the exact same map that they just played, because that's kind of the way they did it back in the day. Usually maps would last, I think, on like 45-minute rotations before they automatically switched to a different kind of map, unless you initiated a vote to extend the current map. I think that was something you could do on community servers. Once again, admirable attempt. Unfortunately, I don't think it pans out all that well, because most of the time, again, most people just want to play on the exact same map that they just played, and you aren't really given the freedom to pick a map that you personally want to add to the voting list, which would normally be available if you decided to initiate a map vote in the first place, and usually that would be dependent on the game mode you are in, so that certainly helps. The fact that it's actually picking from a random game mode is weird. It's just a really, really weird system, and sometimes you get selections for maps which nobody wants to play, like Junction, crazy things like that. Now, the auto-balance replacement system, again, I feel as though auto-balance was something that could have stood to be fine-tuned. When I look at it now, the volunteer system at least does offer the freedom to choose if you want to be switched to the other team, but that's also something that people are free to abuse and completely ignore at the same time, so the problem inevitably doesn't really get resolved until the game can eventually, after maybe about 5 or 10 minutes, manage to get a person who is queuing to get into the match while it's still in progress, and by then the game's probably nearly over, and them joining the game was effectively pointless. Alright, so if you actually want to hear the story about how I stopped playing Team Fortress 2 altogether for a long time, it really was just because of the lack of an update, for one thing, and also because of the matchmaking system. I barely tolerate it. I think that's the best way I could put it. Really, I don't play Team Fortress 2 solo all that much anymore. I pretty much always just lobby with friends, and we go onto a pub server, or sorry, a casual mode server. We just have a lot of fun, screw around for a bit, sometimes we end up switching teams, but in the end, the point is, I actually still am having quite a lot of fun playing Team Fortress 2. I just don't play it alone anymore, because it's just the same addiction that I once had to the game is not there, and I think I can safely assume that that's probably a good thing, that I've managed to suppress my original addiction for Team Fortress 2, because it really was horrendous back in the day. Now, when it comes to the phase between when I last made a big batch of Team Fortress 2 videos, barring the occasional time where I dipped my toe back into the water and maybe produced a gameplay now and then, in comparison to when the jetpack update finally arrived, a lot of that time was just spent ignoring the game for, well, the reasons that I mentioned previously. That was, I wager, the second longest period I went without even touching Team Fortress 2. So I actually do have a bit of story time right here. There was like this one period where I didn't play Team Fortress 2 for a long time. And, okay, so the origin of this incident, I used to have a pretty huge anger problem when it came to playing video games, especially when it came to multiplayer games. I'd say that over time, as I've matured, I've managed to suppress these anger issues, and I've learned not to react, well, I guess you could say, physically, when it comes to video games. I mean, have you ever just wanted to pound your fist against the desk? Well, it was basically something like that. Anyway, back when I played Team Fortress 2 on my laptop, and I'm gonna go off on a tangent here. I remember my experience playing TF2 on my laptop was just fantastic. It was incredible. It was a lag fest. Like, the game would choose to run smooth for a short amount of time, and then it would spend like 20 seconds lagging the hell out. And I think I managed to actually resolve this issue after a painful amount of research by deleting something in the registry. I don't exactly remember what said solution was, but it was definitely a bizarre one. Anyhow, back in the day, lag was not the cause in which I decided to stop playing Team Fortress 2, but rather it was because I played TF2 long enough where eventually I was starting to get mad at dying to really stupid things. And I actually remember the incident very clearly, whereupon I was actually playing as an engineer on Gorge, see? And I decided to start setting up a sentry to guard the first control point. And then the spy came out of nowhere and backstabbed me. So that got me angry. I pounded my fist against a part of my laptop, which just so happened to actually contain the laptop's hard drive, so that dented it and made it completely useless. And that was the point in time in which I figured, yeah, it's probably for the best that I just not play Team Fortress 2 for a while until I can eventually learn to control some of this anger I'm directing towards video games. And even then, after that long period where I just didn't play at all, I didn't start replaying until I'd eventually built my new PC, and I've been playing Team Fortress 2 on this ever since. There's probably whole videos that are much better aligned in discussing this topic, but the short of it is, it's usually better to just simply know your limits and walk away when things aren't exactly going in your favor. Keeping on playing is a really good way to just make yourself even more pissed off, as I've found. Besides, in the grand scheme of things, it's really trivial to get angry over video games, and to be honest, I really wish I'd learned this lesson earlier, but hey, we make these mistakes so that way other people won't have to, and hopefully I can serve as an example with this very short story right here, if that means anything to you at all. Another topic in this video is the fact that I haven't exactly recorded any footage of me playing on any of the new maps that were added in the jetpack update. So here we are in Banana Bay. Banana Bay is basically like Cactus Canyon, except it's also like the new high tower. The mercs are apparently battling over dominion of the island's bountiful checkerboard crops. And this is kind of a thing, like, this is a lore thing which I would say spans across all Valve games in general. I've always wanted to know where they grew those little purple and black checkerboard symbols. Well, here you go, this is where you can find them. The island also has a strange natural occurrence of non-solid walls that people can pass through, snipers merging with banana crates from the legs down, and spies appearing to be on both teams in a single disguise. I don't know what's going on with this map. Like, I'm looking back on this demo recorded footage, and I'm starting to think that maybe some of the new maps are not optimized for the demo recorder or vice versa, because when I did load this demo recording, the console immediately told me that it was missing a select number of materials, and the spy appearing on two teams in one disguise was actually the exception. I don't really know what was going on right there. It did happen during live gameplay. I can testify to that. Yes, I just haven't really touched most of the new maps anyway, because for the most part, I like the new assets that are being used. I really dig the jungle motif, by the way. I feel as though I could stress that it's nice to see that there's a bit more green appearing in Team Fortress 2, and a jungle theme, I think it really does fit. The map design in question, however, I think it's just going to need a bit more time to actually grow on me. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to stick to playing Upward 24/7 because, you know, that's like the only map in the game. But I think that's about everything I just wanted to get off of my chest. This is a really disjointed commentary. It doesn't really have much of a clear direction, but I needed to ramble for a little while, and I feel as though that getting these thoughts off of my chest was just a good way to do something a little more casual for once. My university first semester is almost over. Work in general has kind of helped me realize that there are lots of other things I'd rather be doing compared to just sitting there trying to read something like Descartes. Like, it's just overall, I'm really glad that the first semester is wrapping up. Not because I dislike the work or anything, but it gets to you after a while. It definitely dawns on you that there are other things, other fields in which you'd rather be exercising your skills, and I think I'm going to try and focus on that during the downtime between semesters, and hopefully also just enjoying Christmas vacation without too much snow. I'm really hoping we're not going to get a whole lot, but I live in Canada, so the cold death is just completely inevitable. So that all said and done, I thank you for tuning in to this really stupid, absolutely unguided commentary, just winging it. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.